Hello and welcome. It's been a while since I've made a video on Battalion 1944, and for anyone following the game's progress over the last few months, you probably know that the game has had a pretty shaky start. It's common opinion that the game was launched into EA way too early, and this is something that is undeniably correct. This is not only really an opinion from the players, but also the developers as well, and this was unfortunately due to the studio having no option to release when it did due to funding constraints. The studio basically put all the funding it received to make Battalion, but due to being a small studio, this could only really go so far, and this of course led to the game being released into EA with many issues and a lack of content, with the hopes that the game would be well received and that the game could be updated and finished for the full release in early 2019. Previously, there has been one major update which fixed many issues. It added a new map and updated the current maps as well as other things. The game is now making its way onto Major Update 2, which has a very large quantity of additions and fixes, and I'm going to try and cover all of them, or at least the recent ones, in this video as fast as possible, and also talk a bit about the major tournament that has recently been announced. I'll leave a link in the description with all the updates in order, because I know they'll be way more detailed in there than I can give you, but they are pretty long. So, starting right back at the beginning, the game will be receiving two new weapons, one per side, and these will be the grease gun for the allied side and the MP28 for defense. These weapons tie into the new Wartide 2.0 game mode that has only recently again been updated, but I think it's an important part to understand going forward, so I'll cover this now at the start. And these weapons basically sit as an eco type weapon that cost a lower amount of coins in the new system. So the updated Wartide game mode consists of having a complete overhaul of the currency system and the UI. Previously there used to be a shared economy, but this has now been changed entirely to a personal currency. As you can see, each weapon costs a certain amount of coins. Players earn coins throughout the course of the game. This comes from killing enemy players and picking up their dropped coin, from objectives such as planting and defusing the bomb, and there will also be passive income such as loss bonuses. Players can also donate their coins that they have in their inventory directly to their teammates by using the donate button as well. This system is quite straightforward, and with the new UI it's relatively easy to understand. It kind of adds an extra layer to the gameplay in terms of managing the economy, but the system isn't really as strict as something you would find in a game such as CS, as the default weapons in Battalion are actually quite powerful and easily good enough to win some rounds. Some of the other additions in this update is that you are now able to save picked up weapons from the previous rounds. If you're an allied, you can for example take a Kar 98 into the next round. And the rounds have also been changed to MR15 instead of MR12 because this allows more time for stable economies to form. The next update was the addition of the new Italian map Savoia. This is a competitive map which should play a lot more like a COD map. I know it's been kind of the opinion of most people that the maps in Battalion aren't that great. This one here should hopefully be the start of creating better maps for the game. It's a little personal to me, this one, because it's based on a map design that I created many years ago when I was fresh out of university, and it's now been fully fleshed into a final product. The map features a lot more height variation compared to the other maps in Battalion, and this has also been aided by another big addition to the game, which is ladders. Battalion now has working ladders, so these have been incorporated into the current maps as well a little bit, and that's why hopefully the future maps will be better because the game will have a lot more height variation that it previously did not have. Moving on, the game has had something that it's needed for a while, which is new character models. The new models, as you can see, visually they look better than the previous ones, and also they should hopefully play a bit better in game as well, because they are slightly thicker than the previous models. And also, due to the models being added to the game, the first person perspective also had to be changed. So this has been improved with new arms and gloves. So this next update focused on weapon balancing, new sounds and movement tweaks. There's been some movement adjustments in terms of making the new movement feel more fluid when moving around the maps. This was done by changing the way that the models react when falling from very small heights, meaning that the player will no longer receive a movement penalty, which made the movement feel clunky. Along with this, there has also been some attempts to lessen the power of jumping around every corner, as this has become really an excessive way to play in Battalion. Some of this really comes down to the way that the movement works. It's also to do with the map design, and that using lean up until this point wasn't really ideal. Now that the amount that the third person player model moves around the corner when you lean has been reduced by 75%, so hopefully this will encourage people to play a bit more by leaning around corners and jiggle peeking. The momentum has also been slightly increased overall to the general movement, and there has also been a server-sided takeoff sound when the player jumps to give a small amount of information to enemy players when someone is jumping. So basically when you jump around the corner you're just going to hear like ooh, ooh. Well, something like that, like a noise. Anyway, anyway. The biggest change out of this though is probably to do with the movement punish when a player lands in ADS after jumping. This has been made pretty significant to reduce the effectiveness of just jumping around every corner, especially like in open spaces, and then basically being able to escape instantly. So now when you jump around a corner in ADS and you land, you're gonna be stuck on the ground a little bit than previously. Along with some of the movement changes, there's also been changes to prone. This means if a player goes to prone when moving in ADS, they will be pulled out of ADS. But if they are stationary in ADS, they will stay ADS. If a player tries to move while already in prone and ADS, they will be pulled out of it unless they're using a sniper rifle. So this basically just sounds like some mumbo jumbo. These are really just minor changes in an attempt to also combat players just jumping and proning around in every corner, or drop shotting if you want to call it that. Personally, I didn't really notice any difference in this, and if you told me that this was in the game, I probably wouldn't have even realised. There has also been some minor changes to some of the weapons. Firstly, both the snipers and the Kar 98. They've had their ADS scope time increase. So previously the rifles could instantly quick scope, basically. They could just like scope in really fast. This has been made a bit slower, and actually I kind of like it the way it is now. And this in turn has slightly increased the period in which they'll be inaccurate when trying to quick scope. So this is essentially just trying to battle quick scoping, but you can still do it. The assaults have also had some changes. This includes the bar now being a 3-shot weapon across all ranges instead of being a 3 to 5 shot at range, and it's also had its ADS animation tweaked to feel better. So basically this is just a bar buff. The gun is pretty solid now. The MP44 has now become a 3 to 4 shot weapon instead of 3 to 5 shots, and both weapons have had their stationary hipfire increase. So again, a tiny buff at very long range for the MP44, but there isn't really that many places in the maps where you would hit 5 anyway, because the maps don't have huge sight lines. Moving on, there's a minor change to the MP40, which means it's had its horizontal recoil slightly reduced to be more in line with the Thompson. Meanwhile, the shotgun has been like a problem in the game since release. It's in all sorts of ways, really. This now sees it have its max damage slightly reduced, spread to be more accurate, rate of fire to be slowed down, and also having an ammo increase to 6 bullets from 5. So hopefully the shotgun should feel a little better now, but maybe it will see some other changes in the future if not. The weapon penetration values have also been edited, but if you're interested in them, it's something you'll have to look at in the picture on the Steam page, or pause the video because I don't have time to go through this. Some of the weapons have also had new sounds, and some other miscellaneous sounds have been added as well. These include the Colt, the Gewehr, Thompson, Luger, new headshot sounds, hit marker sounds, new footstep sounds, and token pickup sounds. So we can have a very quick listen to those. Oh yes, absolutely stunning music to my ears. And finally, for the end of this update post, the game has had some optimization passes to increase the FPS, so hopefully you should see some difference if you struggled previously and you decide to pick up the game again. Okay, next one, we're getting there, just a few more things to go. So the next update includes a new smoke grenade and more map changes. So basically the previous smoke grenades were crap, and they caused loads of gameplay issues. The new smokes have been made to be a bit more like CS, so they're really just a wall of smoke, you can't see through them. Visually, they're pretty unpleasant, but they're good in terms of performance and should be good in gameplay. Maybe we'll see another update in the future at some point to make them more visually pleasing. Some more map changes now, and the Invasion map was one of the most hated maps in terms of competitive map pool. So it's had a rework which will hopefully make the map play a bit better. It's had changes all over, and there's a video on the Steam page, a couple of minutes long, walking around it, if you're interested in watching it. Along with Invasion, there's also been some changes to Coastal. This includes a better looking allied spawn area with the addition of a 2-story house, which the allies can use to look into middle, and some more changes in the other buildings where players can now access different areas of the map faster around middle and on the coast to try and improve the gameplay. Now, moving on to the final update, this is in regards to the addition of Battle Rank and the Wartide 2 changes. But I actually covered those earlier, so it's really only about the Battle Rank. Battle Rank is basically an updated version of the player rank system that was in before, to try and give some incentives for casual players to play the game. This includes tiered rewards with the addition of a new war chest called Aces High with newer and better skins. Something you might have realised also while going through all of this, the game looks a bit better than before. This is because of a change in using a different renderer. Most maps have also had general updates and polish, over the course of the few months to improve them visually. Although I know most of you here will probably play on low graphics like me anyway, it's nice for players to have their game look a bit better and prettier if they want to. Okay, I think that pretty much covers everything. There are probably loads of smaller additions that I haven't mentioned just to save time because I don't want to bore you to death, or I've just missed stuff out. So you can find the full updates in the description. This now already comes to the latest update post, which is the announcement of the Battalion $50,000 major that is happening on the 30th of September in Amsterdam. This consists of 16 teams, and 12 of the teams will be able to qualify through online qualifiers. I believe it's 10 from Europe, 2 from NA. The winner of the Gallantry LAN will be there. That LAN's happening in Budapest soon, I believe in July, so I'm pretty sure you can still sign up to that if you want to go. There will also be 3 wildcard picks, I think 2 from the studio and 1 from Blitzkrieg. So obviously if you fancy your chances, then there is an event and it at least gives you something to play for in the early stage of the game. All of these updates that I spoke about in this video won't be live until, on the live servers at least, until this first start of July. They go into like a beta server that you can play on in the end of June, though if you're interested in playing in it, I would just kind of follow the updates on the Steam. So this is where the game is at right now, a couple of months into EA, basically just making its way towards its full release in February next year. I think by that point the game will actually be a pretty good game. I wouldn't really expect, this update is good, but I wouldn't expect 5,000 suddenly people to start playing concurrently. I think the studio is kind of aiming for like 1,000-2,000 people would be nice. Basically, it's just going to be making our way until next year when the game comes full release, and then it will have, its big marketing push again. And hopefully the game will be a lot better, be in a much better place, and the game will actually do well next year, we'll see. This is basically where we are right now. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this has updated you on the progress if you're interested in it, and I will see you in the next video.